Okay, so we can star items and we've got some history. Great. Now let's work on adding some storage because at the moment, when we reload the app, all of our beautiful translations are lost, which is real sad. So let's add some storage. Now, what we're going to use is a library for this called React Native. Oops, I can't even spell React. React Native Async Storage. Is that right? Which one is it? Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Let me add a space there. Oh, I've already got it in my history. Let me search that. This is the one. This is what we're going to use. If I click on this, you don't have to go to this page yourself. You can just copy me when I import it. But essentially, this is what we're going to import. It's a library which... okay, where's the documentation at? I don't see it. It's got like 400,000 weekly downloads, so you know it's a good one. But if I go to the GitHub page, you'll see maybe some documentation. So there's a little bit of documentation, but basically it just provides you some storage, that's all. So it's on-device storage, meaning that it's not saving to any remote location or anything like that. It saves it on the device. It means that when we restart the app, we can just access that storage and retrieve our items. So I'm going to install this with this command here. You can just watch me here and type it out. Just copy me if you want to. So the command is npm-i for install, and then at react-native-async-storage/async-storage. Ugh, that's a mouthful. Anyway, I'm going to run that, and that should be it. Let me just start this up to make sure it doesn't complain about anything. Okay, cool. So, how we're going to do this is it basically just saves items with a key, and then you save a value. It will make a lot of sense to you as soon as you see me use it. So what I'm going to do is go to the home screen. I'm going to scroll up to where we... well, in fact, where am I going to scroll up to? I'm going to scroll up somewhere. Above this on submit button, I'm going to save it in here. So, in the on submit button, we're going to create a use effect. So it's a side effect. So I'll put my function there. And then all we need to do is call a function in here. It's async storage, and make sure you add the import async storage from this giant package name. So I'll scroll back down to here. Async storage dot set item, and then inside there we're just going to put a key, which we can just say history. History. And then the value is just going to be the history items, which we know we have here. But it needs to be stringified. You can't just put an array in there, at least with the version I'm using. So we need to say JSON.stringify, and then put that in there. So if you're just saving a value like like a 1 or a string like this or something like that, I think you could do it without stringifying it, but I'm pretty sure with an array you need to stringify it. You definitely do with objects too. So we'll just stringify it there, and then basically what we're going to do is just pass it when we want to access this. All right, but this set item, as you can see here, returns a promise, so it's async. So what we need to do is add await. Now, if you remember earlier in the course, I explained that you can't have the await inside of a use effect. So what we're going to do is wrap this in its own little function. We'll say const save history equals async, and then create my arrow function, and I'm going to put that in there like this. But I'm not just going to put it in there, I'm also going to wrap it in a try catch block, because technically this storage can fail. It can throw an error for some reason if it fails to set the storage. I haven't ran into that error myself, but according to the documentation I've read, it can throw an error. So I'll just put it in a try catch, and I'll just log the error. Don't know that we want to do anything else with that. And that's it for that function. So all we'll do underneath that is just call that function. So save history, like that. And then the dependency of this function, or this use effect block, is going to be just in square brackets, we'll put history. So this is essentially anytime the history array changes, which means that an item has been added or removed or something like that, anytime it changes, we're going to update the saved history that's in the storage. So you might be wondering, why don't we just do this in the on submit every time we submit something? So when we submit it, when we get the response, why don't we just add it to the history here? So we've got our result. Why don't we just add it to the history in here rather than creating a new function? Well, the reason is we dispatch an action to add the history item to the state. We don't know that underneath here, at this point here, we don't know that by here it's going to be added to the state yet. This will get done when it gets done. So we couldn't it's not really safe to access history and assume that the new item that we just added has been added and already caught up here. So that's the reason we don't do it inside the onSubmit block. So basically, we just create a separate use effect block, and anytime this changes, we'll just automatically save the history. And that should be good. That should now save the history items. So you can go ahead and run that if you want, just to make sure there's no errors when you do that. Hello. Obviously, you still won't see it when you refresh the app, but hopefully it's in there. I didn't see any errors. Obviously, when you refresh this, like I said, you won't see it because we're not retrieving the item from storage yet. So let's go ahead and actually retrieve this item. We've saved it onto the storage. Let's retrieve it from the storage. And we're going to do it outside of this home screen. We'll create a function called const load data. And this will be just a function block like this. It won't take any parameters. But this is going to be an action we dispatch. So because it's an action, we need to return dispatch like this, and actually put async in there as well. Async return, async dispatch. So we could do this inside of this home screen property, but this load data won't need any properties from. It won't need any state variables or anything like that. So we're going to just do it outside the property. It's good practice that way to put anything that doesn't use any state or anything like that to just create it outside the component. So I'll explain why we need this return async in just a second, but let's write this function first. So I'm going to write a try catch because, again, the storage, just like when we set the storage, it can throw an error when we try to retrieve an item from it too. So I'm going to say const history string equals await async storage dot get item. So last time we used set item, now I'll use get item, and we're going to get history, which will match the key we use down here. So we're getting a history item, and the value will be this. So it's just it's going to retrieve that value. We don't need to put a value. I mean that the value that will be returned will be that we just saw. So under there, we'll just say if history string is not equal to null, then we'll say const history equals json.parse, and then just put history string in there. So it's basically taking this string version that we've got and it's passing it back to an object. So now this history will be the array of history items. So now that we've got the history items, all we got to do is dispatch this action to add them to the state. Because like I said, you can only modify the state by dispatching an action. So in the, not the saved items slice, I'll go to the history slice. We need to add a reducer function in here. This can be a real simple one. It'll just be set history items, and then it's going to be, colon, and there's going to be a function which takes a state parameter and also an action one, and then to put the arrow function there. And it'll just be a one-line function, state.items equals action.payload.items, like this. So let's go ahead and export that at the bottom here, and then we're ready to use it. So all we need to do is go back to home screen, and we're going to dispatch like this, and we'll put items and then set that to history. And that should be good. If we get an error, I'll just log it. I don't think there's anything we need to do there. Maybe you would want to show a message to the user or something, but I'm okay with this. All right, that should be good. Let's just go ahead and call this load data function. So where do we want to call that? Well, in the home screen, we'll just add a very simple use effect underneath that part. I'll just say use effect, and then I'll put this in there. Load data, dispatch, and then load data, and I'll just set the dependency of this to, in square brackets, just dispatch. So the reason we're dispatching here is because, like I said, the only way to update the state is by dispatching an action. So whatever we put in here needs to be a dispatchable action. Now, in order for it to be a dispatchable action, it needs to return async dispatch like this. This will be something which is just passed in automatically when we do the dispatch part. That'll take care of that, and then I'll run this. So we could, of course, just take this code and stick it in there on its own, but it's good practice to separate it out like this. And anyway, I think that should work now. So, okay, actions doesn't have a type property. I might have messed this up somewhere. Let me go back to my history slice. Did I do something wrong? Okay, so I can see I didn't even call the history slice function we created. This set history items, I didn't even call it, so that's my mistake. We're supposed to call set history items in here. So some of you may have noticed that when I did it. That's my mistake. So make sure you call set history items here and then pass in this object. All right. So I'll give that a save now, and hopefully this mean error will go away. Okay, looks pretty good. I will say hello. And now if I reload the app, it should be there. And it is. Look at that. I reloaded the app and we still got our history item there. You are great. Okay, cool. And reload the app again. Oh, it's beautiful. We have some history. Let me even kill the app and reopen it. There we go. We have history items that now save to storage.